Hello, everyone. This is Nicholas Peter Ugero, and tonight I have the pleasure and honor of having Logan Hart on my channel. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
That's great to hear. I'm so glad that you were able to come on. I know this has been about 3 years in the making, ever since in Arkadelphia. So I'm very excited for this. You definitely have a lot of things that I'd love to cover. So let's get right to it. So for people that are unaware of who you are, if you just want to give a nice introduction of yourself and what you're all about.
Yeah, well, so I consider myself a seeker of truth first and foremost. If it is not based or aligned with truth, I see no value in it whatsoever. So I try to align everything in my life towards that. I create content via the Wizard Factory, which has now recently been kind of reinstated after quite a long break there. I also have some other channels that I'd like to do more with, but I'm just trying to take things one day at a time and, do what I'm able to essentially. But I also am a musician. I do voices and lots of other different kind of creative outlets, I guess you could say.
Fantastic. So I know that you have a link tree, so I'm actually going to share my screen, and if I can get that thing to go, where is that? Present. There we go. Share screen. All right, they changed this thing up a little bit. I love it. All right, so here we go. So we got your link tree, so people can see that you have a Patreon, podcast, Wizard Factory store. So if we go to your official website, I'd love to just have people, if you want to give like a brief tour about this, like what everything's about, what they can see, what they can find on here. And then also just if you want to delve into a little bit into that process of creating this website, it looks really professional. It's got like the nice backgrounds. It looks really good. So if you just want to like also break that down too at the same time, that'd be great.
Sure, thanks a lot. I've spent quite a lot of time working on that, tweaking just little details. I'm always really a stickler for details. I think that's where the most gains come from. So right now, it just showcases really what's relevant via the Wizard Factory platform. I'm actually in the process right now of remaking that initiation package. For those unaware, I don't want to get too much into this, but just briefly, the Wizard Factory was a platform co-founded with another person. Things did not end well with that, and so I'm now essentially carrying that forward as a solo project. So, that said, some things that were need to be recreated in the new context, or that had, just where I'm the one doing all of the content, and the initiation package is actually a free video, like a mini course that is going to feature how to cast the circle of the magi for doing any kind of practical or energy or magical work, as well as breath work segment, and then a voice and chanting type section.
Wow, that's interesting. And I think that's excellent that you're giving that for free.
Yeah, I've thought about that myself. Like, man, it's quite a lot of content actually. This new one is going to be even more in depth than the old one. So even people that have watched the old one, I think there'll be a lot in there new for them to dive into. But at this point right now, I mean, I really just want to focus on giving as much value as I can, and I'll worry about monetizing more later down the road. But essentially, this is really the fundamental tools that anyone can and should be using, on a daily basis, really.
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, I didn't even realize. I mean, I think I heard you talk about the initiation package a while back, but I didn't look into it more. I didn't realize it was a free thing and it had all these, tools in it. So, yeah,
It's
daily
kind of,
practices. I mean, that's excellent.
yeah, it's kind of funny because actually I made those when we first launched, which was like early 2019. So that's when I was like brand new to video editing and graphic design and all this stuff. So it's actually been kind of cool to get to remake this, and it looks like 10 times better than the rudimentary original form. So it's nice. It feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you want to break down at least a little bit more about the website and what you have to offer here, that'd be great.
Right. So the news section is just a blog style bulletin kind of thing for me to post updates and announcements. And as I did have to redesign the website as well, as I said, in the new context of the way the platform is now being run, um, I also launched a brand new shop in aspect of this with a bunch of different products that I designed myself on a kind of, what do you call it, print on demand service.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's a lot of different options. That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's
some
awesome.
of them are like just the standard logo, but I used a lot of cool graphics of like outer space kind of themes and things like that. That was a lot of
Nice.
fun. I really enjoy just being creative in so many different ways, just like not afraid to try things, and am usually pleased with the results. Like, I'm quite proud of the shop and all the products in there, even though I've never done anything like that before.
Yeah, yeah, like you were saying, like just tackling that and trying to do something you haven't done before, and expanding your limits, doing something that takes you out of that comfort zone. That's very a good mindset to have, and the consistency to continue to do that and not just stay in comfort is a can be very rewarding. A little risky at times, but overall, it definitely provides a lot of good just experience and knowledge that you can take into maybe other areas that you wouldn't have thought would be applicable to that same action. So that's excellent. So we got that. You got the news, like you said, about you.
Yeah, the homepage just kind of gives you the basic rundown about what the platform is all about, a little introduction to me, a contact form to email. Got your social media links down there. And
Yeah.
eventually, I will be also featuring more digital content like courses. I plan on also remaking the Rune course that we had, and I'd see that as a direction that will be I'll be focusing a lot on moving forward with the platform. It always has been one of the areas that gets a lot of good views and attention there. So
Fantastic. So in terms of the website and just creating the website, was this something that you've done on your own, or was this like using like a website creating platform or anything like that?
yeah, I of this one I used Wix, which is a pretty user friendly, drag and drop type of format. It's really fairly easy to use. It's kind of just up to your creative eye and how you want to have that show up.
All right, well, that's great to know. So I definitely wrote that down so I can check that out later. Because yeah, I've been thinking about doing a website for a while instead of just being on the just the normal platforms. I definitely want to be having my own thing where it's not going to be censored in that sense. So
Of course.
I think
Yeah,
that would be
there's
great.
pros and cons to using a service like Wix. There are certain limitations when it comes to SEO and things like that. If you're trying to optimize, but if you just have basic needs, like for what I'm trying to get, what I need it for, essentially right now, I'm not doing a ton of volume. I just need somewhere to kind of host content and be able to post things. So it does the job for what it is. Maybe somewhere down the line, it might be useful to switch to a more like a WordPress or kind of thing, which I have worked with as well. But yeah, this is definitely a lot easier to just kind of drag and drop elements.
Yeah, that's definitely user friendly, and that's something that I'm definitely interested in. So that's great. So I definitely appreciate you delving into that because, especially for me, I'm a content creator, but I haven't done any sort of thing with the website. I haven't even attempted it yet. So just learning a little bit more about it and different things that you can go to like GoDaddy or whatever else might be out there. I think that's
Mhm.
very that's good information for people that are at least trying to create content or haven't even started yet.
I do
So
use GoDaddy actually as the hosting, and then
oh,
you connect the whatever website through the back end. So you just have the hosting. That's where you get your domain, and then you can you can plug that in through the DNS settings.
okay. Perfect. So yeah, so moving on from there, for people who have inspired you and motivated you, if you just want to delve into that, who's really like helped you out on your journey in terms of like going into different subject matters and all that stuff. It doesn't have to be
Mm.
just within the content creation community, but also just outside of it in your own personal life.
Yeah, well, I'm somebody who draws from a lot of different influences and sources. I like to be as eclectic as I can from what information that I'm taking in, so that I don't get too narrow view on any one thing. And I'm also just somebody who's extremely interested in a great many things, probably too many things, because it always feels like there's just not enough time in the day to get to everything that I feel drawn towards. So that's a challenge into it itself, is kind of being decisive with what to focus on without compromising that immersion. Excuse me, that can really, to me, that's an important factor, is whatever you're focusing on. I like to really dive into it, and I may just spend like a month or 2 months on something fully integrating. Like for right now, for example, I'm really focused on like weight training and learning more exercises, and proper diet for muscle growth, and workout plans and things like that. And that's what I'm super focused on right now. But just a couple weeks ago, I was more on like nutrition and health. I've been getting a tons of new supplements and doing all kinds of different detox and all kinds of stuff. So I'm really always busy in that way.
Great, great. So yeah, just in terms of like just
I didn't
people that have
really,
really,
yeah, I
yeah,
didn't answer
just in
your
terms
question
in
at
terms of
all. I'm
people
just
that have
like, well,
really
there's
inspired
so many.
you.
uh, let's see. Well, obviously, I would have to say Mark Passio has probably been the most single individual influential person I've ever come across. Then there's, in terms of like the spiritual kind of domain, um, like the Kabbalion, um, studying the runes, studying, mythology, philosophy, um, even I like self help. Things like Stephen Covey, um, Tony Robbins. Uh, I'm having trouble like producing names just because there are so many. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know.
How about just like in your personal life? Is there anyone that really motivated you to maybe go into content creation or to, be just creative in general? Or
That's a great question. Not really. I've always kind of been a very like self-motivated person, because I've also kind of been a bit of a loner, sometimes by choice, sometimes by not. But in terms of who I choose to surround myself with or expose my energy to, I'd rather be alone than around toxic people that are just staying stuck in their lives and things like that. So, I mean, even my family members, sometimes say that they wish they saw me more and stuff. And I'm just so focused. I'm always just working. I don't really just lounge around and binge on Netflix and things like that. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to harp on that or anything. But just me personally, that's just how I'm wired. I feel like if I'm not growing or creating or learning, I feel like I'm kind of wasting time.
yeah, and I can totally relate to that. And I know, like, just looking at your background, like where the setting that you're in, and then I turn around and I see my room. It's just completely different, completely stark, like a huge stark difference. Like, and yeah, I can totally relate to, as days go by, if you're not doing something that's productive, that's fulfilling, or something that you really have a passion for, I can feel that same way where I feel like I am just kind of wasting my days away. And I'm feeling like I'm not doing what I'm should be doing, my
Mm.
purpose, the things that really do fulfill me and make me feel better. So like doing like the content creation, I've had months of not doing stuff when I really could have done it, doing editing when I really could have done it, and just doing like my room, organize my room. I get so overwhelmed by it when in reality I can just focus on one single thing, get a little section done. It's not hard, and I feel so much better afterwards. But it's
Hmm.
just continually doing that and having that constant drive and motivation. I know that there was a post that you just did that was really good. It was just talking about the consistency. Like if you
Hmm.
aren't consistent in your output, then I know it's right here.
I believe you're talking about where I said if you wait to do things until you feel like it,
Yes.
then your results will be as inconsistent and erratic as your feelings.
Yes. Yep. And yeah, so your results, yep, exactly. So if you just do it when you feel like it, and that's kind of where I can be at times where I'm stuck in that when I feel like it mode or when my back's up
Mhm.
against the wall. And so I can definitely um empathize with people that are in that state because I can definitely be in that state of mind as well. So
Yeah, there's a balance always, and like I said, there's times where I recognize that I need to just kind of chill out, maybe veg for a day or two, or depending on, a lot of times if I'm going through something, that's another time where, I'll kind of like lose my creative spark. I'll feel a little bit lost maybe, and that's okay. So like that's its own lesson for me, and I've gone through a lot of challenges over the last year, especially. It's just being okay, just giving it time. You know what I mean? Being okay, not being okay, and just being patient and gentle with yourself, and not kicking yourself when you're down, because sometimes all we need is just some time to kind of figure it out and feel through. That's a big one, you know because if you're constantly distracting yourself with busy work, then you're not really letting yourself feel through there. So, it's just, there's no one way or right way. It's all about balance, really. Like some days you might need to power through and just get something done. Other days you feel that inclination, but what you really need to do is just kind of like sit with it, let it be, feel through that. So,
yeah, I definitely want to speak about this more once we get towards like trauma and like personal
mm,
stories, methods on how to, deal with things because I can find myself in that loop as well where I know that I should just take time to turn off the electronics and sit with myself and just be with my thoughts. It's not
mhm,
gonna, my head's not gonna explode. Like I'm not just gonna keel over and die because I turned off my electronics. I'm gonna be okay.
mhm,
And then just being able to sit with yourself and go through things and contemplate things and really try to, just zoom in and or zoom out of your life and just see like where you're at, what do you like want to do, maybe decisions you have to make, things that you're kind of kicking down the road when you really should make a decision on something. So yeah, I think that's
totally.
very sound advice, and I totally agree with you on that. And then basically when you're talking about just consistency and output, goes right in line with what we're going to talk about next, which is just how do you stay consistent in your work and how do you do your best to prevent any sort of burnout in terms of just content creation and stuff.
Uh, Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do get burnt out. And I think the key right there is just to really just take things one day at a time. That's all you have control over, is what decision you make when you wake up, that day, and you decide what you're going to do. If you're, you're not limited to that. If you're having a crappy day, there's still time to turn that around and salvage that and make something good out of it. But my best self is brought forth when I set that the day with that strong, firm intention. And this is something I've actually really been working on recently. Is even when I wake up, before I even allow myself to get on the phone and check messages and stuff like that, I sit up in bed. I do a brief meditation, usually about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I go through some steps where first I do visualization. So I imagine the things that I want to accomplish that day, and not just doing them and going through the emotion or the motions, but also the emotions, and all, like, I'm not just doing the thing. I'm enjoying it. I'm laughing. I'm feeling excitement for that creative process, whatever it may be. I really try to attach strong positive emotions to that, and then after that I do some affirmations. So just basically speaking to my own subconscious mind. It could be things like I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm capable, I'm worthy, or it could be things like, I'm growing, I'm healing, I'm love. I'm excited, I'm joyful. So it can be like emotional states, it can be descriptive words or virtues, things like that. Just whatever I desire to embody more. And then finally, I get into some gratitude. So I'll just focus in on just a few things that I'm grateful for. And I do kind of like to try to rotate that out. It's easy to get one track minded. Obviously, we're grateful for the roof over our heads. That's an easy one. But sometimes it's really useful to kind of dig a little bit deeper and try to find those things that you probably take for granted more. And so what I do is like, of course, you could just think about that thing and, oh, I'm so grateful. But what really makes, because it's about actually feeling. That's that law of attraction, is actually evoking those emotions. Uh, you want to really feel that. Imagine if that thing was suddenly taken away, and then feel what that would feel like. And that will actually evoke true gratitude, not just, oh, I'm, thinking the thoughts like, oh, I'm grateful for this or whatever. So that's been my morning practice. And it's only like 15 to 20 minutes extra. To be honest, I would have spent that just browsing Facebook before I'm even out of bed. So what a much better way to spend that same amount of time I would have just wasted away, putting that forth into the intention of that day. And it really has made a noticeable difference in my outcomes, my willpower, my consistency, my follow through, like we talked about. And then, of course, on the other flip side of that, burnout does happen. So honor that as well. If, like, again, I don't think of negative emotions as bad. They're simply information that are communicating to it with you. So if you're feeling burnout, one side, on one hand, it's easy to get in that mode of like, oh, what's wrong with me? I should work harder. I should be better than this. And just kind of like getting even more down on yourself and negative. And other time, or on the flip side, you can ask yourself, like, what is this emotion telling me? Maybe I'm grinding too hard on something that isn't, giving me more fulfillment. So then you can work on, um, how can I try to enjoy that process more and glean that fulfillment? Or maybe I just need to pivot a little bit and work on something else. And then, like, after enough time, your why will come back. Because to me, that's the bottom line, is whenever you're feeling like unmotivated or stressed out or like burnt out, just get back to your why. Why did I start doing this in the first place? And either that will shift the mindset, or it may make you actually realize, well, my why isn't as strong as it was. My values have changed since I started this project, and maybe I do need to kind of invest my time and energy in a different kind of way. And just always checking in with yourself and using that as your navigation and again, take it one single day at a time. Today is what I have power of, and to make it what I will. And if it doesn't go great, okay, I get a fresh clean slate tomorrow. Just start over, wipe it clean and start over and do it again. And it's just a daily practice.
Yeah, and just like with almost anything, it's easier said than done. So yeah, I mean, saying it's is one thing, and you're putting it into practice in your own life, and you're seeing a benefit for it or through doing that and being committed. So, and which is fantastic. And then like for me, like just kind of like what you were talking about, just being able to like I would just scroll through Facebook for 20 minutes before I get up, and now I'm just taking a lot better use of using like my time a lot better.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's something like that's what I was doing this morning. Like I woke up at 6:25 and I'm like, I don't want to get up yet. So I laid down for like 5 minutes, but then I'm on my phone. I'm just sitting on my phone. I'm wasting away 15 minutes when in reality, I could sit up. I could maybe do some stretching. My hips are super tight. Maybe I can do something like that and like close my eyes, breathe,
Hmm.
meditate, have some positive affirmations. And the point that stood out to me the most was just the gratitude. and not just saying, oh, I'm grateful for this roof over my head or the food that's on my plate, but really thinking about you not having it
Mm,
and how you would feel in that space. Because
it's
I've
powerful.
been that's very powerful. That's exactly. And so because I have that habit of taking things for granted and not knowing what I have until it's gone. And I've had a history of doing that before, and I've
It's
been
natural.
better. Yeah, it is natural because you just kind of get in that kind of routine, and it's you have
Well,
it now, you've had it for a while.
it's how the brain is wired from a survival standpoint. Is it's called the reticular activation system. Your brain is trained, especially the primitive brain, the brain stem, is trained to lock in on what's wrong with the situation. So if it's like, think about, you're having a nice picnic, and all of a sudden a lion comes out of the bushes. You're not sitting there like, oh, what a nice picnic. You're focused on that thing that's wrong because that's the threat. And so it's actually useful that it's there. It's just that we have to understand, know thyself. That's where all the power comes from. So understand that that's how you're wired, and know ways to counteract that and bring it into balance.
Well, it's very profound. That's a very good way to look at it. Absolutely. Yeah, because yeah, just really being able to imagine something, not having something, and just knowing history
Mm.
of myself and just how I really do take the time to think about all the things, the positive things, instead of having someone or something in my life and just, thinking about the negative things. It's my computer's working only half okay. It's not doing that well. It's kind of slow. I don't know what's wrong with it. But if I lost it completely, I'd be like, oh my God, well, look at all the things I was able to do with it at the
Mm.
very least. So I would think about it in that positive sense and kind of forget about the negatives. I would,
The computer's half full,
yeah,
kind of.
yes,
But
that is
no, I
perfect.
like that. That's a great example of how you could choose to see it as a negative, and, oh, I just wish, and resist what is, or think of like, well, it still can do lots of amazing things. This old crappy computer would have been seen as magic, to somebody 400 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So yeah, so I definitely thank you for that because I mean, I ask this question a lot in terms of just burnout, especially with content creators, because I can be
Hmm.
that type of person that gets in that state of mind where I do get burnt out and I just
Now,
take times off of working on this stuff. But yeah,
I will say, because in context to the content thing too, is it's extremely important to make content that you enjoy and that lights you up. Of course, you want to be strategic. You want to, stick within what your channel is about. Kind of, you want that continuity. But essentially, if you're just making video after video or post after post, whatever your medium is, and and you feel it feels like a chore to you, you probably should rethink like the direction you're going in, because that, again, that's information that's telling you, like, if I don't you should feel excited about getting to create something that didn't exist before, until you had the thought, the idea, and then the skill set and the passion and the drive to bring that into creation and be able to share it, especially in this age of internet where it can be, instantaneously distributed across the globe. That's amazing. So, the choice is yours. Like, you could literally make something about anything. So choose something that actually makes you feel excited, and it's a lot harder to burn out that way. I'll tell you that much.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, because like with me, I would maybe focus on just doing one thing in terms of content creation, whether it's like editing interviews. I
Hmm.
have like 10, 11 interviews that that I want to edit and put music, put
Nice,
images, do all
nice
this other
catch.
stuff. Yeah.
I
And
literally do that too. Like, oh, I got to do this, and I'm like, no, I get to do that.
yes. And that's where I get in that loop of, just feeling like it's insurmountable basically. And then I just
Hmm.
don't do it and I just push it off and push it off. When in fact, once I'm in that process of doing it, like I re-listen to the interview and then I just think, oh, this is a perfect time for me to maybe put an image or something like that. And a lot of times I try to add a little bit of humor in there. So I'm cracking myself up as I'm editing. So like I know I
Yeah.
have a lot of fun doing it. And it's just remembering that process that yeah, it does take a long time, especially when I bloviate and my interviews take or like 2 hours long. So then I have a lot to go through and
Right.
re-listen to. But yeah, I just have to remember that process is just super fun and super exciting, and I do enjoy it. Like you're saying, like just being able to create something brand new and accentuate the topic and the conversation, because I already feel like a lot of my like the conversations I have are valuable and
Hmm.
they will benefit people. But then just adding like the images to go along with it, and maybe adding a little bit of humor, to lighten things up, make it a little entertaining at the same time, but keeping all the content the same, everything, like I don't cut anything out. I like it's all still the same, it's all intact. But yeah, I think it's very valuable to change things if you need to. Like I would make videos before about just other things, and then I got asked to be interviewed. So then I started getting into the interview process, figuring out
Mm.
how I communicate with people and getting all the questions set up, and then having people come on beforehand and you know going over the topics, all that stuff. So it's yeah, just it's a good point. Just being able to change things on the fly if you need to. If you're feeling like maybe this isn't working out too much, you've already done it a little bit, but it's something that you're not really consistent on. I think those are all really good points.
Great.
So thank you for that. And then so going along with just content creation, tools of the trade. So microphones, cameras, editing software, just any sort of things that you are using, or things that you have used in the past and maybe and they're really user friendly, but you've kind of gone on to more advanced stuff. If you just want to break down at least first, I guess, the microphone and the webcam, because I have that stuff all set up too.
Yeah. Well, it's just really whatever gets the job done, and always don't be married to one product. If something else that's better comes along, being kind of fluid and being able to just flow with that. Like, they're just tools, they're just a means to an end. So I love how many different tools, like in terms of like software, for example, that there are, and a lot of it's free. So it's like if you come up with an idea, or some different kind of thing you want to try, I just do a quick search, and chances are you can literally find something, that does what you're trying to get it to do. So again, it's just like, just find what works. Um, I do use the Logitech Brio, as I see you've got that up at the moment. That's a very good webcam. I actually had a really old, crappy one for many years, so it was a much needed upgrade. Microphone, the AKG C214. I know a lot of people like to use the Shure microphones, which are fantastic, but this is just one I actually had from more of my music production. It just happens to also be a really good vocal speaking microphone as well. So it's good and versatile. So I can use it for singing, or recording like flute or something like that, or as I'm using it for podcasting and things now. Um, I use so many tools. I use DaVinci Resolve to edit. I use OBS to record, to create like the graphical interfaces, that I can add different elements or similar. I've basically created several different programs that mimic like what we're using on StreamYard or Restream, and I have a Stream Deck as well. I guess I might as well mention that. I don't know if that'll fit on screen. The Stream Deck is one of my favorite tools. Seriously, pieces of technology, because it's so versatile. You can literally program it to do anything. So, a lot of people know it's great for streaming. You can control OBS with it, switch cameras, and turn mute microphones and things like that. But you can program it to do almost anything your computer uh, needs to do. So I actually came up with my own multi-switch function that will put my computer to sleep with one button. That basically hits it hits the hotkeys to minimize all windows, to bring up the sleep or shut down window, which shut down is the default. So it pushes the down key, and which goes to sleep, and then enter. So it's like 5 or 6 different commands that happen in sequence, but within like a second and a half. So I just shut my computer down super easy that way. I'm kind of proud of that. It's super nerdy, but just things like that. You pause your music. You can switch between Windows, you can make it copy and paste with single button pushes. So you can even kind of set it in your lap so that while you're editing a video or you're doing a bunch of like data entry kind of work or whatever, you can just program it to fit your needs and cut so much, extra time and energy. Because I don't know, I find it exhausting sometimes doing really tedious, like fine clicking on certain things and moving them, or hotkeys and stuff like that. So it's just all around awesome. I actually want to get the bigger one.
Yeah, yeah. How much is it for like? Because that one's not too big, right? It's just like
This one's 15. It's 5x3. I think it's around 179 or something like that. And then the big one's like 300 or like somewhere around there. But it's like quite a few more buttons as well.
wow,
You
that's
could use it for
awesome.
gaming. I mean, literally just whatever. Just I like things that are only limited by your creativity and your imagination.
Yeah. So is there like a application on your computer that then allows you to interface with it, or is it just through this?
Yep, it has a program, the Stream Deck software, that essentially brings up a virtual depiction of the buttons, of the layouts, and you just will drag and drop different functions into it, and you can also make it infinite in hierarchy. So you're not just limited to those 15. All 15 buttons you could have be folders that when you push that, it opens up a whole new set of buttons. So you can just basically have infinite depth or pages upon pages of different commands, and you can even set it to where the configuration will automatically switch depending on what program you're in. So if I'm in my OBS, it automatically pulls up my interface with all the different cameras and stuff like that. And then if I open up like, Discord or something, it'll have hotkeys for Discord in there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's because I know I met this one guy. He had like a studio and he had like one of those stream decks. It was like one of the bigger ones. So I think it was the one that you were kind of talking about. But yeah, it seems really good for people that are doing live streams and like you're talking about with video gaming. Just being able to like, especially with images, you can pop up images or maybe like a clip of a video and you can just have it
Yeah.
play and just have it be
Sound
right at your
bites,
fingertips.
sound effects, things like that, animations. Yeah. Hotkeys for video editing, like, cut, drag, paste, keyframes, things like that.
Wow. That's awesome. Cause yeah,
It's a game changer for sure.
yeah, being efficient and not like like we were talking about the tedious stuff and being able to save time that way. That I mean that helps prevent burnout as well. Just making the whole process a lot more seamless.
Hmm.
Because I can definitely be in that trap of like having to save like because I thought my Windows activated. I got like one of those phony codes to activate my Windows because I have a free version of Windows 10. So so when I have my images, it doesn't show the actual preview. I have to actually click on the image to see what it is, what the
Oof,
image is. It doesn't have the preview, so I have to
that's
make sure
rough.
it is. So I have to like describe my image pretty particularly as the name, so I know what it is, and so I can visualize what the image is. But
I
that's a
feel
pain in the
that.
butt.
Yeah, for sure.
Just having to go through the folders and then like trying to remember what the name of it was and whatever else. So it can be a pain in the butt. So having something that makes the whole process quicker, easier, that's just gravy from there. So that's all excellent information. So that's for myself personally, but for people that are out there wanting to do any sort of thing like this, that's definitely great. I use a microphone. It's the J Lab. Will Keller told me about this brand.
Oh, cool.
So I did have like a blue. There's my phone. I did have one of those blue microphones. It was like a really cheap, like just $100 one, and it was okay. But you can hear definitely that echo
Hmm.
in my videos. And then when I switched this one, it sounds a lot better. I have like that soundproofing foam. I haven't put it back up since I've moved, but it still sounds pretty good. So
No,
I'm enjoying this thing.
the
It's
audio
really
sounds
nice.
great. Good
Yeah.
quality.
Yes. I know. Same with you. It's got like that bassy tone to it and
Yeah.
doesn't sound crackly or echoey or anything like
Yeah,
that. So
my voice
yes.
doesn't have any bass in real life, so it's nice I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
How you
And so,
doing?
yeah, so
Smooth
yes.
jazz.
So like I also have like an Anchor webcam and it can do like 60 frames per second. So if I ever wanted to do that, like I have that
Hmm.
option. So like I've done a little bit of upgrading too. But even if you don't, like you said, you had a microphone for years. or no, like a webcam. You had a webcam for years, and you've been like
Yeah.
needing to get this kind of thing upgraded. But even then, you still were making content. It's not like people were refusing to watch it because this video quality is a little
Well, I
crappy.
was
So,
recording stuff on my phone.
oh, okay,
And so, yeah, this basically allowed me to have a more easy. What I like about it is once I got everything all set up and configured, if I just decide I want to record something real quick, or say I just did an interview and realized, oh, I never did an introduction, I could literally flip on my studio lights right here, open up OBS. My webcam's already pointed right at me. And this is on a boom arm. So I just pull this up and I can record just like that. That's really, because that's a big one. If you got to set all this stuff up just to record, that's when it starts getting into the whole like, feels like a chore. So that's another, point we could add to that conversation is like the more easy and accessible and just ready to go you can make stuff, you're just making it easier on yourself.
yeah, yeah. Like with me, I have to plug in I don't like have my webcam just plugged in, so I usually just unplug it. And then yeah, like my microphone, it's really simple. It's just one cord, whatever else. But yeah, you just being able to just swivel it over and you're already all set. I mean, that's great. So like
Yeah.
that's definitely a really good point. And so going from there,
Real
you
quick,
went. Oh
actually,
yeah,
there's two more pieces of software that I just have
nice.
to mention because like I know you asked more about hardware, but like I said, just what gets the job done. But software, there's two things that I can't recommend enough for anyone, but especially somebody like me that's very like organized or wants to stay organized. Because again, that's another aspect of if you feel like all your ideas are a mess, and or like in just some long text document or something like that, and you got your to-do list in there somewhere, that also feels like, ugh, like that's just one more friction point, of like actually getting stuff done. So the two things that I recommend, first of all, is a program called Notion. It is one of the coolest pieces of software I've ever seen, because it's essentially like a notes app, but it's so versatile in what you can do with it. Uh, each So basically everything you put in is like a line that you can convert into something else. So you could have something typed and then realize that's a whole, like, you want to make that a note, its own note. You can turn that into a page so that when you click that, it opens up a brand new fresh page that you can have more information. So again, infinite hierarchy of levels and depth. So like I came up with a system where like I keep track of like personal like life notes, like all the addresses I've ever lived, and my license plate number and just shit, like, so I modeled this off of if anyone wants to check this out, I recommend it. There's a guy named Tiago Forte who came up with a system called Building a Second Brain. And he has a course on this. I never took this, but I watched a bunch of the free YouTube stuff and basically extrapolated the idea. But essentially, it's like use a piece of software like this as an extension of your own brain for all the crap that no human being should ever be expected to remember, but is super useful to have handy. So even things like, say, for example, you're trying to work on a video and you're having this bug that keeps popping up. Have you ever had an issue that was bugging you and or like driving you crazy? You finally, after lots of research and reading online, you finally figured it out. You solved it, and then 6 months later, it happens again, and you can't remember what you did to fix it. So this is an example where you could just have one note inside this whole thing that is for like software bugs. And so you just write, here's the issue real quick, and here's what I did to fix it. And then if that ever comes up again, you know exactly where to look, and you don't have to go through all the trouble of trying to figure out like where you found that answer or whatever have you. But then obviously it even goes further with people like us who are creative and content creators. You need a way to capture ideas in a very efficient way. I can't tell you how many great ideas that I've come up with that I forgot because I didn't write them down. So again, it's not just enough to write them down too. You don't want to just dump all your ideas in one big long, because it just becomes a clusterfuck eventually. And that just becomes one more like, oh, I don't really want to, go through all that. It's a mess in there. So having a system, this program, it has database functions. And this is one of the most powerful parts of the tool, in my opinion. You can turn a page into a database and make custom columns and put in like multi-tags, things like that, that you can then use to sort what view it's showing you. So I have a master content database, and then I can each entry that I make, I can tell it based on just clicking these tags. Is it a text idea? Is it a video idea? Is it a podcast idea? That's like a category column. Then is it a personal brand thing? Is it a Wizard Factory thing? Is it a Heartfire Visions thing? I can select the brand or multiple. There's just several columns that I can go through. Is it short form? Is it long form? Was it a takeaway from some article that I read, and then I could put the link in there, and then it's all going into this master database. But then I can sort by clicking different views as tabs at the top. So I can click one that's just going to show me post ideas or quotes, my own personal quotes. But then I can designate only Wizard Factory related quotes. So it's like infinitely customizable, but it's all going into this one master database. So again, total game changer. And I spent months on this, but it's so worth it, because once you put that work, up front, and then you actually have that system you can use, it's so much more painless to actually capture ideas first and foremost, and then revisit those ideas as well, and not just letting stuff get lost in this endless, text document, that sort of thing. So,
Wow.
yeah, dude, I can nerd out on this stuff all day, dude. So that's Notion. And then the other one is called Tascade, which is simple or similar, to, things like Todoist. But what I like about Tascade is you can take the same document and change between views, like a list view, a Kanban board, without changing anything. You're literally just clicking a button at the top that switches your view. Can I share my screen? Because I can actually just show you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's see, because I can remove mine. Let's see if I can do that.
Click present
screen.
Share screen.
How do I make it to where you can do it? That is... Oh, there you go. Oh, so you can just do it on your end, and then it'll pop up, and I can choose to add it. Brilliant.
Yeah. So is it... I can't see. Is it showing? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was showing, yeah.
Yeah, so this
is perfect.
This is Tascade. And I can customize this background. This is just what I have at the moment. I also really like that too. I mean, I know that sounds like a simple thing, but this is your workspace. So you want it to be pretty, like something you actually enjoy looking at and working in, right? So it's pretty crazy. Like this goes further this way, and I've got like weekly, monthly, quarterly, and each of these I can sit here and like assign a due date, and then it'll actually give me a reminder, which I have this on my phone as well. So I'll actually get notifications on my phone for, like appointments or just reminders, like check back on this email or whatever have you. This is how I stay on top of like my ideas, my projects, my appointments, everything. And, like right here, these are all like where I would sort ideas. I go in here, these stuff that I would do for Wizard Factory, but then I use a queue. So I would just take something and literally just grab it like this and drag it into a queue where I'm building up. Okay, these are things that I'm planning on doing fairly soon. And then when I start my day and I sit down and I'm getting ready to plan out my day, I will just drag things right here to my today's agenda. So that way I'm limiting all the noise and just focusing on exactly what I want to accomplish for that day. And like you can just it's whatever you can think of. I put in, I'm going to check my sauerkraut in a week because I made it last week. um, think IOU reminders to your friends, or that they owe you, you know, just stuff like that. I mean, literally, again, your imagination is the ceiling on this thing. Like whatever you can imagine, focusing in, like this, even as a macro view, these are the things that I'm focusing on right now. So every time I sit down and planning my day, I can also keep this in mind. This is where I'm really like pouring my attention into, right? So, that's my I've got a daily health practice checklist. I just reduplicate this up here again after I've checked off stuff. I don't always hit them all, but taking 2 times vitamin C, drinking my 2 water bottles a day, iodine, probiotics, and so like whatever it is, this helps you track it, and it's so satisfying clicking this stuff off when you do it. I'll like enjoy even adding really arbitrary points on there just for the satisfaction of clicking them off, just getting more clicks in a day. It's me, just getting that momentum, like I'm being more productive.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, one question I got to ask you is how long you been doing the sauerkraut stuff, the fermenting?
Well, so I started that a few years ago, and then I kind of fell off of it. So it's hard to answer because I haven't been just doing it steady. I've been doing it again for a couple of months, but I started several years ago, and I did it for a few years. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah, because yeah, just fermenting versus canning. I've heard a lot of
Hmm.
good things, but I've been wanting to do fermenting for a long time, and I just haven't like gotten that ball rolling. But I know it's got, you create that good bacteria
Yeah,
and those
you
good
definitely should.
enzymes.
It's actually because anybody can do it. It's really simple and easy. There's ways to mess it up, but it's not a very big learning curve, and it's very simple. I mean, essentially, you're just picking different vegetables, you're cutting them up in a way that are going to be ready to eat, and then you brine them with salt water. And then of course have fun adding seasonings and tweaking the flavors there. Like my favorites are, I do love the sauerkraut, and I add like garlic, dill, and mustard seeds to that. That's kind of my standard though for my ferments. It's a really good trio there. But I also love carrots, beets, cucumbers. Obviously, you can do um, cauliflower. You can do squash, green beans. There's all kinds of stuff, but probably carrots, beets, and sauerkraut are my favorites. The flavor is
Wow,
just, especially when you give it some time and it really develops. It just keeps getting better over time.
wow.
Like I don't even start eating it till it's been in there at least like over a month or two.
Holy cow. It seems like it's a pretty simple process, or like, like once you know what to do and what not to do and what you should look
Hmm.
for if it's going in the wrong direction. Like once you get that sort of thing nailed down, then it really is just up to you and what you want to do. Like you're saying, like adding different seasonings, all that stuff. Garlic, I would do that all day, every day. I'll just toss that in there.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, I got to start doing that. So
for
it's
sure.
definitely going along with like the whole prepping thing, which I want to get into. But first, I just want to double check the things that you were talking about. So it was so the program was Notion and then Task Aid. Is that ADE?
Yeah, all one word, TASKADE.
ADE. Okay. Yeah, because Link was thinking if it was AID, which I thought it was as well, because it seemed to make sense to me. But okay, so Notion and then Task Aid, and then you said
Can you
Tiago.
go back to my screen real quick? I
Yes.
forgot to show
Y-
that what I was talking about here. This is how I prefer to do my to-do list, because I like how it has these small columns, like in a left to right and up and down. Like I can see more of it at one time essentially. But if I just click this, it takes this same thing and puts it in a linear list form. And this is actually how it would show up on your mobile phone as well. And then you can show a calendar view, so anything you've assigned to a date to will automatically populate here. It shows you what you've accomplished. This is active in progress right now. um, but like, so again, just automatically showing you that calendar view. And this one's really cool, the mind map. So because everything is like nested, you can sit here and open up these one by one, and it shows you the trees of stuff in underneath. So you can really plan out full blown projects like this. And then I use it for groceries as well. So I've got my grocery list kind of categorized by store. These are the stores I get my food from. These are the where I put the meals that I'm planning for the week. And then once I cook it, I can drag it down here to leftovers, so I know exactly what's in my fridge that needs to get eaten. And then the very same thing, here's all my meal ideas, so I don't have to sit there and be like, oh, what sounds good, and just try to think of meals off the top of my head. This is everything that I know how to cook. And then if depending on the thing, like for example, there's I'll put like ingredients or recipes in there as well.
Wow. That's a lot of time just for meals. Holy
Well,
cow. That's awesome though.
I mean, but again, you put the time in to make it, but in the long run, it saves you so much time, because again, I'm not sitting here thinking like, what haven't I had in a while, or what sounds good. I can literally just read the list, and something will pop out at me like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then again, I don't have to go and look up a recipe. I've already saved the best one that I found, or the one I like the best, right in that entry right there.
Yeah, and it's yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. I definitely want to try that out because I was that's one thing that I have a hard time doing is just like setting those tasks for the day, setting those goals and just following through with it and being consistent, because it's up to
Right.
me to do it or not. It's not like I'm going to get a detention or get grounded if I don't do it. It's literally up to me. It's just how I'm going to feel after not doing it or doing it and accomplishing it and then, you know, so that's where the tricky part has been for me. I've always had that kind of struggle. So I definitely need to improve in that area. But that seems like that would be a good thing for me personally. So I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate you going in depth and especially the visual because that's obviously I'm a more of a visual learner. So you doing it that way was also great. So thank you for
Yeah, I
that.
love showing that off. And I actually have thought about maybe making a course on that as like a system that you can model off of mine to help you stay more on track of your goals, your projects, and like I said, all the information that you might need to handle and keep track of, especially as content creators. Um, so like obviously I've put a lot of time into building that stuff out. So I'm more than, I'm more than happy for the opportunity to show that off.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally understand that. And then you were talking about Tiago Forte, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yes.
And so I want to show just that really quick, just so people have an idea of like what, like if they when they see it, that's what it is. So this is his uh, channel on YouTube, so you can
Yeah.
see a bunch of
And
different
there's
stuff.
Notion right there. That's one of his
Oh,
biggest.
okay.
You see
Let's
that
see.
first video was Notion. And then that third guy, Ali Abdul, he's another guy. They're like friends in real life. He does a lot of the similar stuff. And one other guy named Thomas Frank has a lot of amazing content on how to use Notion as well. So anyone interested in really diving into this program, there's so much you can do with it. It's incredibly powerful and it's free. So it's just ridiculous, all you can do with that. So that would be another person I recommend, Thomas Frank.
Thomas Frank. Okay, and he's on YouTube too.
Yep.
All right, let's do this live. Let's check it
See,
out.
Notion was the first first thing
Yeah.
under his name.
How to break your phone addiction. I'm gonna save that one for later. Thank you. All right, perfect. Thanks. That's good. I always love these little like tips, suggestions, because everyone has different inspirations, different people that they look at on a day-to-day basis. I'm not looking really for that stuff. So
And
it's
that's
really
kind of what I meant is like there was a period actually early this year is when actually it was about summer of last year. Sorry, it's been a blur. this was what I was focused on. I was building the second brain, designing my own system. And so I was just, that's how I am. I get obsessive about something until I just absorb until I can't absorb any more. And then I just move on to the next thing. So, Diego Forte, Thomas Frank, those are people that I learned from in that short window of time, but I was like watching hundreds of their videos. So it's hard for me to think of that stuff off the top of my head because there's so many things that I've moved through like that. Where, like right now, for example, I'm watching Jeff Cavalier on Athlean X, is a YouTube channel all about weightlifting. So that's just one example. That's just where I'm at right now. And in a few weeks, I'll probably not even be watching a single one of his videos because I'll be on a different journey.
Yeah, and Athlete X, I've really enjoyed that content. My brother got me into him. I've watched a good amount of them, not too
Mhm.
many, but a lot of good suggestions. Really, like, got a lot of knowledge.
A case
Just
in point,
positioning.
and I'm making lists in Notion, things like exercises, and I've got a page in there, and they're all sorted. I love how you can format the pages as well. It's not just like a linear list. You can change the font colors. You can make them like large headings, small headings, bullet lists, like everything. So you can almost build it. It's almost like a web builder. In fact, you can make a list and share that as a link. So you could literally make like a bulletin for, say, a business meeting or something, and then send that link as a public link to the other people that are in that meeting. Or say you could even do this for your interviews. You could make the question list as a page and then send your guests that link, and they can review the questions. It pulls up almost like a web page. Some people can even use it like a landing page because you can even embed links and stuff in there. So you could just build it out. You can put graphics. You can embed YouTube videos. I mean, dude, this thing is insane. I love it so much.
So for instance, if you do like the questions and you want to use it for that sense, and you send the
Mhm.
link over to the person you're going to interview, and they click on it, are they able to edit, or can you have it where you can allow
Only if
them
you
to or
can
not
give
to?
them permission,
Okay.
but otherwise it's just a read only link.
Wow, okay. So that's, I mean, I can almost use that as like some sort of like website in a sense. Because like you
Exactly.
said, I could put graphics, I can put the font, I can make it where they can't edit anything anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's a link so that they can click on it. So, I mean, I realistically, I could just use that as like you're saying, like a landing page where you have other links or whatever else.
Exactly.
Wow, that's
That's
really
insane, dude.
empowering right there. That's great to know. Wow. Thank you for that. So that's great. I don't even know what else to say about that. That's just excellent. That's really practical,
Mhm.
especially for someone that's in my kind of shoes so that is great. I don't know how
So
many
yeah,
times
back.
I can say great, but that was great.
It's great how many times you said great, really. But yeah, just to come back full circle. So perfect use case right there. I made a page in my Notion called exercises. And then I'm actually working on a system on how I can combine the exercise as almost like a template. And then I can drag and build my my workouts and keep it as a workout journal. So essentially, I'm going to make a system so where I can pick 5 exercises or whatever I choose for that day, um, start a new journal entry, drag those in, and they'll already have like the weights and reps that I did last time. So that's always like this living document that's always kind of like keeping track of my weights and stuff, and then just dragging them down into a duplicatable format so that then I can also look back and say, oh, on this date I did these 5 exercises, these were the weights I was at, you know and
Wow.
it's just turnkey. It's very, like, once you build that system, very easy to duplicate.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that goes to the point of just being able to putting the time in the beginning, and then just making your life easier from then on. So
That's
like
how life works in general, isn't it?
yeah, like with my room,
Like,
if I had this thing nicely organized, I didn't have too many items in my room, so I had space enough like to get everything done. my mind would be a lot clearer. I'd be able to, find the things that I'm looking for that I don't
Mm,
know where the hell they are. They're in a box somewhere, like I don't know,
yeah,
deep in my closet. So like it just makes everything just smoother, and it's just a lot more efficient, and you're not having all these roadblocks and then just getting aggravated, and you're more clear headed, like you're saying. Like when you have your actual to-do list for that day, you have everything pushed aside, so all that noise is not part of it. You're just, okay,
yeah,
so this is all I have to look at. That's all I have to focus on.
exactly. And
And then you're not
that's huge.
overburdened.
You kind of put those horse blinders on of like,
Yeah.
yeah, because again, I like we talked about, I'm somebody, I've got so many different interests, so many different things that I want to be doing, but I know that I'll be the most effective if I'm focusing on one, maybe two things at a time. So I just try to like limit that perspective, put, get the tunnel vision on what I'm actually trying to accomplish, and then just, you know, have keep track of. That's the beauty of it. I've got all these ideas stored away in those other lists, but I can't see them, and I'm just pulling out, okay, this is what I want to focus on, and then just putting it into one simple short little list that I can block everything else out and just focus on doing those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's definitely something I got to start taking advantage of, because that seems like, that could really help me out and just get those habits, those positive habits, the
Mm,
positive way of looking at things and dealing with things and processing. So that's great. So, moving on from there, I really want to get into ways of prepping for the road ahead mentally, physically, spiritually, whether that be self help books, supplements, kind of like you were leading or talking about briefly with your health, that health list, skills,
hmm.
workouts, like you were talking about, praying, gold and silver, etc. Just anything that you personally are doing, or things that other people are doing. Just any sort of suggestions.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
Open door policy on this one. Any subjects are good.
Oh yeah. There's a lot we could get into there. Main thing, I'm just trying to really focus on getting consistent habits, and that's just, it's a work in progress. Some might see my daily habits and say, well, you're very consistent, and that may be true, but it's a relative term. So I'm trying to get more consistent on specific things. So for example, like we talked about earlier, that daily morning practice, that's one thing that I'm choosing right now to implement. And that's kind of how I do is I'll focus on one thing until I integrate it and it becomes a habit, and then I can move on and start focusing on something new. So again, right now I've just started working out again. I'd say about a month or so ago, and obviously trying to make sure I'm not just doing that, but getting enough protein to where I'm repairing the muscles and getting the growth that I'm looking for. And then here very soon, I'll be adding in like some posture correction techniques, because that's another thing that I want to work on. But I know that I can't take on too much at once. It's too much to be learning all these exercises, getting the weights right, and the protein and all that. And I'm also trying to do some 22-day posture thing. I know I won't do that. It's just too much. So knowing your limitations and then just kind of like taking one thing at a time until you can get consistent with it. So yeah, when I first moved here in my new place back in June, I really wanted to focus in on health. So that's what I was eat, sleep, and breathing. Uh, you know, Taking in the information, learning more about not just like diet, nutrition, macronutrients, what is a carb, that kind of stuff. I was like wanting to dive deeper on that, but then specifically ways to cleanse the body, heavy metal detox, liver cleanse, lymphatic. There's, and shifting away from pesticides and GMOs. And, I've known about this stuff. I just got really lazy with it for a while due to lifestyle and what was convenient, and going through a lot of emotional difficulty. That's just, sometimes you just like, better, but it's just like, I just don't care enough right now. I'm dealing with enough, and that's okay. But now I'm getting back to it. So it's like, I accept I fell off the wagon. That's okay. I'm getting back on now, and I'm really gotten, very clean and shifted. I was shopping almost completely from Walmart. Now I just supplement, a few small items here and there, and getting most of the stuff from the local health food store here. So things like that, right now, staying consistent with diet, now incorporating exercise. So weights is good, but then there's another level I want to be adding, bike rides and stuff that gets more of like the cardio aspect in as well. But I'm not trying to take on too much at once. I'm getting solid with the weights, and then I'll start adding more like the biking and the posture and things like that. Let's see. I also, a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, I started trying to get back into reading more, because that's one of those things that I always just kind of like, oh, sometime, someday, I don't have time for that. And, that those are just excuses because, again, a lot of habits I find can be effective even in very small doses. So even if I only read 10, 20 minutes in a day, and I don't read every day, but several nights a week. So I just basically made a mental resolution that when it feels right, I'm going to read like before bed instead of binging more on YouTube or other like video games or things that I would. And I'm kind of leaning towards when I'm work nights, because like I don't have much time for anything else anyways. So when I get home and it's late, I do DoorDash, and I'm working like 3 days a week, but like 12, 13 hours. So literally I get up, I eat, and I'm out the door. And then when I get home, it's already like after midnight usually. So that's when I'm kind of like leaning into no screens. I just eat some food, take it easy, and then I read a little bit and then go to bed because I got to wake up and work again the next day. So, it's slow, but I'm reading now. So that's what counts, and just kind of taking it as it comes, and eventually I'll finish the book I'm reading and I'll pick another one. So let's see. So covered like physical, the health, the mind. I think it's important your diet, your physical diet, but mental diet as well, and like what you're consuming. So I don't even really watch Netflix anymore. If I am, my one cheat lately has been watching a little bit of South Park on like the Put Locker. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's kind of like a pirate streaming. It's like Netflix, but it's got everything, and you don't pay. It's not exactly legal. So, but other than that, like that's very even a few times a week. Otherwise, I'm been watching Athlete X while I'm eating, and I'll have my keyboard right beside me, and I'll be taking notes. I'm pausing it, stuff like that while I'm eating. So just finding ways to maximize my time where I'm eating, but I'm also learning. That's two things that I'm utilizing that time at the same time. Skills, always just, again, that's more of I work on it when I need to. Like I need to make a thumbnail, I'm going to work on my graphic design skill. I'm making a video, I'm working on my video editing skill. Oh, the website needs something updated, now I'm working on my web design skill. And so that's kind of how I operate. Is I build a lifestyle around that, to where out of necessity, I'm always working on those things. And yeah, I definitely, I'm not personally involved in gold and silver, but crypto is a big one for me. And I've been I first invested back in 2019. Yeah, 2019, right at the very bottom of the bear market before the last bull run. So out of sheer dumb luck, I bought the bottom, and did pretty well on the last bull cycle, but made a lot of beginner mistakes, and definitely didn't capture in a lot of the profits like I should have. So that's something that almost every investor goes through. Their first bull run, they kind of like drop the ball, but that's part of it's like they call it, like your tuition. You spend in the market of the university. And so but regardless, taking the investment completely out of it, I'm just extremely interested and intrigued by the technology itself. And it's going to change everything. Like, you know, as impactful or more so than the internet itself. In fact, they call it Web3. It is the next form or iteration of the online world, the connection. And it's how I would like describe it is it's essentially bringing property rights into the digital world through ownership of things like NFTs. That's items or assets, and then currency. So those are the two main use cases right now: is cryptocurrency and NFTs. So what can you think of that has to do with property rights that doesn't have to do with either money or items? Like, but and NFTs can be attached to virtually anything, physical items in the real world, even property deeds, um, courses. It's like a password and a membership token all built into one. It's basically like your digital identity. So whatever NFTs you have in your wallet and you're interfacing with a decentralized platform, it's going to scan that wallet, and if you have proof of ownership, then you get access to what you own. You know what I'm saying? So like that's the best way I think to look at that. Is it's bringing property rights into the digital world, which is much needed because we've got all this, we live so much, spend so much time in the digital realm on Facebook and video games and all these kind of things. That's not going away. But think about how many things that you use that you treat as yours but aren't actually yours in the digital form. Whether you spent $700 on a course, well, what if they decide to shut that website down? Or you bought all these skins in a video game for your character, and then like you'll never be able to sell those to anyone. You can't even transfer them to somebody else. So those are problems that NFTs actually solve. So not only can you re-extract some of the value that you put into that asset, but then the creators are incentivized too, because they can get royalties on every trade. So it's actually better the more times that asset changes hands, they're getting a cut of each of those. So it's good for everybody, and I think once people actually catch on to that, it's going to really take off quick and infiltrate every single industry you can think of. There's some kind of use case for blockchain. So again, it's another area that I can definitely go into at length.
Yeah, my own brothers are personally really big into crypto. They've gotten me, I've got some investments in there, but like they've moved away from like the Bitcoin. They were into
No
Bitcoin Cash at
Doge.
that time. Yeah, I don't even think they even pay attention to
Friends
that.
don't let friends buy Doge.
Yeah, and that like I know someone personally that's working on this, helping out with this one crypto. It's called Lotus. The website's like givelotus.com, I think it is, or .org. But it's basically just it talks about like just the nuts and bolts of just incentivizing stuff. So incentivizing right action through like appreciation. Someone did something nice. You give them some of that. It's also got like their own like social media thing. It's like Stamp Chat. But yeah, I've read the white paper. It sounded really good. It's talking about voluntary exchange and not causing harm to anybody. So it's like
Yeah.
it's definitely resonating with me for me reading it. And it
Yeah,
seems like it
I think
has.
blockchain can essentially make the government completely obsolete. If even under the like a statist kind of mindset, they could put mechanisms in place that allow for voting. Decentralized voting. That's what a DAO actually is. And but then you could set it up to where you're voting on a specific piece of policy rather than some crook that everybody knows is full of shit, but there's no way to get to controlling the laws without allowing a representative to speak on your behalf. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, obviously I'm an anarchist. I want to see it all go away, but at least with this, it can start really phasing that the current system out in terms of much more decentralized and trustless ways of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just show this really quick. This is like the website givelotus.org. I definitely know that they have the white paper somewhere, but it's really short white paper. Um, yeah, it just talks about smart contracts, scalability, stability, self-funding. It's just, yeah, talking about appreciation, yada yada. So this one is, my brothers have been talking to me about this one. It looks pretty good. They haven't really talked to me too much about crypto recently. I haven't been really interested in delving more into that and investing more into that. I'm trying to get like the food, water, practical things like medicine, supplements. I was talking to you over Facebook about that Shilajit. That, I mean, people that have been watching
Hmm.
me already know about that, but just that black resin with a bunch of minerals and fulvic acid, all that stuff. And like you're just talking about the working out, taking care of your health. Like
Mm.
your true wealth is your health. It doesn't matter if you
Yep.
have $10 million, if you're sickly and you're not taking care of yourself, and you have diabetes and your blood pressure is skyrocketing and dropping down. Like, what good is it? Like, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
So,
But if you care about that, then you do have more resources on better supplements and, a trainer or
mhm.
another program or something like that. Like, it goes both ways for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and how, yeah, exactly. So how are you going to utilize your funds, and what are you going to prioritize? Are you prioritizing your health? Are you going to try to get like higher quality stuff, or are you going to get like the bottom of the barrel, like
Hmm.
whatever I can find? It has the same name as this thing, but like I don't know what's really in it. Different things are in there, so whatever. But yeah, it definitely yeah. So it's definitely just how you apply it, what you're going to use it towards. What do you find to be the most valuable thing in terms of like your mindset, what you're looking to do. And then like yeah, so like just doing the working out stuff and getting stamina. Biking for me personally has been great. Just
Love it.
increasing your stamina.
This weather's been super nice. I
I
personally, I
can't believe
live
it.
I live in Texas, so it's almost too hot to do stuff. I mean, you can do it, but you got to really be committed because it's like in the 90s or over 100 degrees for 4 or 5 months out of the year here. So it's nice. Like it's just now been cool enough to actually be enjoyable to go for bike rides
Oh
again.
yeah.
So really taking advantage of that.
Absolutely. Have you been doing any sort of gardening or anything? Try to
No, I'm in an
put your hands in
apartment
that?
right now. I
Ah,
know I could get, like get some little raised beds and put them on my patio. But again, I know my limitations. I'm doing a lot right now and focusing on things. I just don't have the capacity to take that on at the moment. But I have a very strong interest in developing a green thumb and learning, you know, farming and growing practices for sure.
yeah.
But I guess that's more of my 5 to 10 year plan with the crypto and those kind of like I plan on, especially now we're in a prolonged bear market. This could be going on for the next couple of years. So my goal is just to be putting away, treating it like a savings account, what they call dollar cost averaging, just buying a set amount periodically, regardless of price, so that you're kind of getting the mean average over time. And on a long enough timeline, Bitcoin and Ethereum, the good ones trend up over time. So that's the idea. Is just I'm in accumulation mode right now, and in 5 to 10 years, I expect that I will have enough to cash out and buy more real world assets such as land and get that kind of thing going to even take my self sustainability to the next level.
Yeah. That sounds interesting. I wish you the best of luck with that. So yeah, I'm personally just trying to, like, I have some crypto like I said, but yeah, like gold and silver, just physical things at this moment, just because I see the dollar kind of going pretty far down. So I just want to make sure I have at least some stuff now, so I have at least some consistency in my own life. Like I know I have some medicine, I have some food, some water, all that stuff. So I'm not like kind of scraping around with everybody else. I know how to dumpster dive, all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's great. I mean, everyone has different, ways of going traversing through what we're going through right now. And
Hmm.
that's why I love having the conversations, because it gives me like an insight on someone's mind, their thought process, and sometimes that can help me in my own personal life and in decision making, and adjusting certain things or prioritizing different things. So I think it's
Hmm.
valuable either way. So I thank you for that. Now we're gonna get into the meat potatoes. I know we're already an hour 25. Of course, it's going longer than I thought it would, because that's just me. So trauma, dealing with trauma. if you have any personal stories, any sort of methods, one of the things that you said already, which was getting up in the morning, and meditating right at the
Mm.
start, giving some gratitude, having like those visualizations of what you want to get accomplished and the feelings that you'll have in that moment. I think that's all very valuable. So if you have anything else to share in that, or if you have any personal stories, some other methods, maybe some books that helped you out, or people that you've watched that have been really inspirational in that sense of self-help, shadow work.
Totally. That's something I've really been working on. I'd say the past 6 to 8 months as well. Really more focusing in on going deeper because, yeah, meditation and doing things like that is useful, but sometimes, and to be fair, there's say people like gosh, what's his name, Joe Dispenza. He uses meditation primarily as a modality to rewire people's brains and shift out of their traumatic past dictating their future, that sort of thing. So I'm not downplaying that, but for me personally, sometimes you need something more powerful, something, that's really going to bring stuff up to the surface and allow you to feel through it. So for me personally, the two things that I've ever experienced that were on that level are breath work and psychedelics, specifically psilocybin mushrooms and ayahuasca. Which the ayahuasca I've only done, well, technically 2 times, but in a single kind of retreat setting. The mushrooms I've done a lot more extensively, but I've had some really powerful experiences with those in terms of like emotional purging. So doing Wim Hof method with the kind of like the almost really fast kind of in and out breathing, and then with the holding your breath, in and then blowing out, and hold your breath like that, and doing like several rounds of that. Um, I've been able to use that to really like release, especially when I'm really going through something. That's been quite profound in terms of releasing and just kind of purging of all that, because if we're not getting it out, it's staying stuck, and then it's going to create other literal like physiological as well as mental issues if we're not dealing with that stuff. So for me personally, those two things have been the most powerful in terms of being able to create that space and allow me to release. I mean, it tremendously, like, weeping like a widow, and then like full blown rage and just screaming and like, flailing my body around. And then like usually towards the end, then it's also followed by laughter and joy, and just like because it's such a relief to have that out. And those sometimes we suppress our joy as well, if you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just psychedelics for me, like mushrooms. I've definitely tried not to do it for any sort of fun, like exciting purposes, but just for like serious topics or like serious like reflection. I've had definitely I've never had a bad experience with it,
Hmm.
but I've tried. Yeah, I've never tried to really abuse it. Um, but yeah, that's definitely been something that definitely has helped me out just in terms of thought process, putting like pieces together
Mm.
that maybe seemed like they were separate, but really being able to see the big picture.
It's really
That's
good
been
for
great.
just a good reset sometimes too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then with weed, I've been growing my own, regardless of if it's legal or not, because who cares about that. But when I don't abuse it, when I don't do it every single day, and I do take days or maybe a week away from it and then do it, I definitely notice a difference in how it affects me
Hmm.
and the way my mind works. And it definitely helps with my reflection of
Hmm.
being able to really just be in my mind and think about things, contemplate. So that's been good for me. If I do it every single day, it's not going to have that same effect. It's going to be more of like a sluggish, like it's not what I need to be doing. I
Right.
shouldn't be doing it all that time, all those times. So I think that's what my body is kind of like telling me. That's why I don't have the best reaction to it if I do it all the time. But yeah, this one book that's been really good. I've read that when I was in therapy was The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. It's called The Happiness Trap.
Okay.
That one was really good. It basically taught me how to meditate without even saying the word meditation. Definitely was able to have me be more observant of my thoughts, of myself in a certain situation, and being able to know when I'm in that thought mode versus like being observant and in the moment and,
Hmm.
experiencing life, the five senses, whatever else. So that was very good. It also had like a workbook kind of section at the end. Um, yeah, just like the whole shadow work process for me always seemed really, uh, I couldn't really picture. I didn't really know what that meant. Like, how do you do it? Like, what does it entail? And it's really just looking at your past and just kind of like looking at the events that have happened in your life and like the way it's affected
Just
your mindset and the
the
way it's,
stories that you tell yourself about those things.
yeah. Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, questioning
Totally.
that for sure.
Yeah.
Journaling, that's another really useful aspect as well. Because sometimes, it sounds one way in the moment and it's your truth. I hate using that word, but it's your truth like then in the moment. But then if you come back a couple weeks later or months later and reread that, you'll be like, wow, I wrote this, like it, if you've kind of created this separation from it through time where you can kind of go back and read that from a more like objective, less personal perspective. That can be really useful as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I was doing that for over 2 years, and I do want to get back into it because it was really powerful. But I was just for me personally, I wasn't doing like lists or anything like that. I was just kind of writing, describing how my day went, like what I did.
Hmm.
Some of the times, like a lot of what I said was a lot longer because like there's a lot more that happened that day. But it really
Hmm.
helped me just see what was fulfilling, like what was empowering myself and bringing myself up to a higher standard and a higher, state of awareness and being, and then what was just bringing me down. And it was very obvious. I already kind of knew it anyway. It was like my porn addiction, sex addiction, and then that also was like my cannabis addiction, my video game addiction. So that fed into my shame and the way I perceived myself and the way I would talk to
Mm.
myself, calling myself an idiot or an asshole. I always mess things up. I always take things for granted, and I believe that, and so that's how I was. That's how I operated. So I would
Mm.
I would date people, I would hurt them, and I would feel bad about it. I would add more memories and more trauma and more regret, and it just kept piling on and piling on. And then it got to the point where I like enough was enough. I've already caused enough damage, and then I'm causing more damage to myself. And it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And the journaling really helped me get to that point as well. Just seeing the huge conflict within myself of doing the content creation, but at the same time doing this garbage that I didn't like. I regretted it after I was done, but
Hmm.
then I just had that like quenchable thirst for it at the same time, which is the addiction part. And I was operating with the reptile brain. I was a beast. That's how I was. My thoughts, emotions, and actions were complete crap. And I would try to, this was not really working very much. And so when I would try to have these thoughts of, like think about the repercussions of your actions, this thing would just start spouting off, 1,000 different reasons as to why I should do it, why it's worth it. It's exciting, yada, yada, yada. And that's just how I was. And then once I started removing that stuff, that's when I could really and avoiding the crutches. So I started taking out like video games and weed as well at the same time of me getting rid of the porn and all that other stuff. So my ability to see things clearer was just like the doors just opened up wide. I could definitely see the past and how I got to where I was
Mm.
and what built that mindset and built all these mistakes. It was just, I didn't have enough tools in my mental toolbox on how to deal with these things. I didn't have the perspective because my mind wasn't even working properly. So that's also something that people need to think about in terms of shadow work and trauma, because your brain starts being like it's not functioning the same way, especially with like PTSD or something. Your brain's not functioning in the same way. So for me, that's basically what shadow work is. It's like just being able to see the past and look at things that have happened and work through them. That's really that simple. And I was really making it seem a lot more complicated than it really was. It's really quite basic. Like my codependency issues, that just stems from childhood, and my self-esteem issues, the way my dad treated me, the way my mom treated me, and then just the way I operated with other people and trying to find fulfillment by being with somebody else instead of finding fulfillment within myself by doing the actions that I think for myself are fulfilling, like doing the
Hmm.
working out like you're starting to do and gaining the muscle, getting the confidence, getting that track record of good days, of positive days, of having that soreness and feeling great about yourself. So
Yeah.
being able to build yourself up on your own, like that's the main thing too. So for my codependency, I can see that. I can see that progression and how I got to where I was, to where I basically had every single attribute of a codependent person. And so that was the shadow work. It was like that's pretty easy. But yeah, it's just, and like you said, like just not having that cell phone in the beginning of the day, that's a great start. Talking about starting your day on a really positive note, changing the way you're thinking, and just having a different perspective. I think that's super crucial. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have
Staying
any,
away
yeah,
from avoidance behaviors, that's a big one for me. To this day, I struggle with it sometimes. Just like even self-sabotaging, like I'll set an intention, I'm going to go to bed early tonight, I'm going to wake up, I'll be super productive, and the next thing I know it's 4 a.m. and I'm just watching the most ridiculous crap on YouTube, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Why did I do this? I can't take it back now. But just being staying present with it, checking in when there is something coming up like that, not just avoiding it, but just like tuning in and listening to it, like what's going on, what's this trying to tell me, and then doing for me just activities that I would classify as state management. uh, that's been just essential in terms of tool set for me. So, like I said, the breath work's really good, but really anything that gets me into my body, yoga has been incredibly useful for me as well. Also, as a good anchor for starting my day, because you're kind of forced by doing that to not be on a device. You're fully focused on the activity. You have to concentrate on balance and stamina and things like that, and it gets you into your body, it gets your breath going. It's like the ultimate practice to ground and to get you into your body and out of your head, because it automatically kind of activates all of those faculties. So that, for example, even simple things like music for me, I'm a musician anyway, so I'm just super like sensitive to sound and music as well. I just connect deeply with it. So using that as a tool, and like depending on what my needs are, like sometimes I need like super soothing like piano music to make me feel calm and peaceful. Other times I just want to listen to death metal and just rage the fuck out, and that's what makes me feel better. So it's just kind of like you picking your medicine. I like a very wide range of different styles of music, as we've talked a little bit about recently. I'm going to see Meshuggah next week, so that's pretty dope. So yeah, music, anything physical, the yoga, the biking, things like that. Even like cooking, that can be very therapeutic. It's an act of self-care, especially as long as you're cooking the right things, you're making yourself nutritious meals. But there's something about any activity like driving is another one for me, because it's like something that it's just enough to kind of give your brain something to focus on, but it's not like all encompassing. Like basically I can drive, but I can listen to a podcast. Same with cooking. So it's like just enough to kind of like give you something to focus on, but you don't have to think too hard. You're not like super like being analytical or getting into that brain mode. It's still very kind of somatic and almost instinctual. And you're going by, intuition and things. You're not thinking about like shifting the gears. Once you've learned how to do that, it's kind of automatic. So things like that's therapeutic, and also oftentimes where some of my best ideas come from. The same with in the shower as well, because again, you're just kind of going through the motions, but your brain is free enough to allow for that creativity. So that's where often I have a lot of great ideas for like content or different projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's all really good. Yeah, like with driving, being like, even if you're like, because I do that where I listen to podcasts, I listen to information, so I totally understand what you're saying there. I definitely relate to that. And then just just driving in silence, because like even though
Mhm.
you're like you're saying you are focused, you are paying attention, you're looking around, checking your blind spots, whatever else, but you still haven't like you're not really using too much energy, because
Right.
once you get used to it, you know what to kind of look for, expect. Then you really do kind of free yourself up to be able to take in information, or just observe your thoughts, or just contemplate at the same time. And
Yeah,
like you're saying,
ideally
come up
it's
with
like a
ideas.
nice windy road through some nature and not just like being stuck in traffic with assholes all around you, and that's not necessarily the most therapeutic, but
Absolutely not. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Um, so yes, I definitely appreciate everything that you've been talking about. I think this was a very valuable discussion. Um, if you have anything else you want to say regarding any topic or anything like that, please feel free to just say that right now, and then we can go into just where people can find you.
yeah, just as a closing thought, I think it's important to, like I said, seek truth first, but balance external and internal. I see many people, they're very, spiritually wise, philosophical. They can tell you every conspiracy theory or this, these are the problems of the world and this is how we can fix it, and that's all great and very, very important. But also, not focusing too much on that, with or not neglecting doing the inner work as well. I think it's very important to do both. Many are they're either all about the healing and they just like, oh, ignore the negative, that doesn't affect me, that's not in my reality, or it's just hyper obsessed on everything externally but zero like self-awareness and self-reflection and that kind of thing. So if I could leave the audience with any kind of one piece of advice or wisdom or whatever, is just to try to find that balance, like truly seek truth and always be growing your understanding of the world, building your skill set and all that, but also don't neglect the healing and the self-care aspects, and taking care of yourself as well.
Totally agree. Very, very, very powerful, because that's even in my own life. I can tend to be maybe more towards one than the other, and not have that balance. That's been definitely something consistent, is the inconsistency.
Yeah.
so,
So,
so yeah,
assuming you're gonna link my link tree somewhere, folks can just find pretty much everything you need right there. But
absolutely.
that's the Wizard Factory, by the way. If you go to the bottom,
Ooh, okay.
that's my
Goodness.
actual link tree. So that's going to lead you to all those different link trees.
Okay.
I've got, a tree of link trees. um, so yeah, so Wizard Factory right now, that's my primary focus. I just got that platform going again. It's essentially spiritual philosophy and empowerment. So it's, really covers a wide range of things. Excuse me. And that's my primary focus. If you'd like, also check out the Heart Fire Visions channel. I do intend on being more versatile with my content in terms of putting out more regarding my music, my voice impressions, things like that. I'm kind of like trying to build this strategy around doing more of the short form stuff that's super popular right now, like the TikToks and Reels and things like that, which I think actually would be uh, very suitable or fitting to the uh, the format of musical snippets, quick little voice impressions, things like that. Funny skits and stuff like that. And so yeah, anybody interested, follow me at any of those places. Just check out the link tree and go from there.
Wow, that's great. I get overwhelmed with just one channel, and just having 10 interviews that I gotta edit, and then you got
Yeah.
like three things, four things going on. So yes, I can totally see where all that organization, like the Tascade, like where that comes into play. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, Logan, if you just want to stay on just for a quick couple minutes after we get off, that'd be very much appreciated. And
Sure.
for everyone that's watched and is going to watch in the future, I definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I think this interview's been excellent, very informative, very insightful, a lot of good practical things in here. So
Yeah, it's been a
Yes.
pleasure, and I've really enjoyed our conversation, Nicholas. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely worth the wait, in my opinion. So, thank
Excellent.
you everyone for watching, and have a great night. Take care.